colleague got criticized by our boss, his response was, "I'm pretty sure you told us to do it in that way." That one line started an argument. Neither side was backing down, each accusing each other of being wrong. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure my colleague was wrong about what my boss had said, but it didn't matter whether he was right or wrong, because it was the way that he responded that pretty much guaranteed him a very bad result. How you respond is always gonna matter way more than whether you are right or wrong. So when he dropped that line, the boss immediately got defensive. He was just like, nonsense, and he started to pretty much try to justify himself and that he didn't say those things. Now, it started to grow in a bit more passion, and you could feel the resentment in the air starting to get more and more angst, and I was just sitting there going, damn. Eventually there was a pause that was longer than usual, and the boss just left the room. After that, you would hear the squeaky wheels, and then my colleague came up to me and says, "I'm pretty sure he told us to do that." Now, even if he was right, and the thing is, we've had situations like this where he was right before, the moment he made it about the boss, it was the moment that he was pretty much destined to lose, because it became a confrontation at that point. It became more about him questioning the boss's memory rather than what was originally him criticizing an action that we allegedly did. And the thing is that I was also present in the room, so that makes it public. There's stakes in the game, there's spectators in this instance. And being publicly made wrong is something that very few people can swallow. And it's not wise to put someone who even can in that situation. Now, there's a powerful phrase that I've used and it's really worked for me so far in the professional world. And that is this: I understand. I know that now going forward. Now, I've done a similar thing before where I received a call from the boss and he was like, "Hey Alan," and the moment I heard the panic in the voice, I'm like, oh, something's not good. This was how I initially responded. I was like, yeah, the reason why I did that, or so what happened there was this, and I would provide context. And I remember one time after I finished that up, he just cut it off by saying, "No excuse." And the first thought I would have is like, bro, I'm just providing context on what's going on. I'm just explaining why what happened had happened. But just to shift the perspective here, he's already frustrated about something that's happened. And so any buts or the reason if, or so what happened there was, when I start off a phrase like that, to him, it's always sounding like I'm trying to justify why I'm not to blame here. So it's a blame shift that's quite similar. It's just that I'm not necessarily blaming him. But the problem is still the same. It was that to him, it seemed like I was trying to absolve responsibility. With the phrase that I had then, I understand. I know that now going forward. This sets a very different tone. First, I acknowledge that something happened and that it was not ideal. And the second bit is that now I make a commitment and that I acknowledge that, and that going forward, I now know what to do. And the third one is to move on. So I understand, I know that now going forward, that's it, nothing more. And that silence is pretty much signaling to move on from what we were at before. It's a very powerful statement. So we acknowledge what's going on, we commit that it will not happen again because we now know that going forward, and that's the end of that conversation. Just completely takes that energy away. And the response I received oftentimes was good, cool. Pretty much acknowledging that the other party is also like, yeah, that we've reached the conclusion that was the most ideal in this exchange. We acknowledged that there was a problem, and we acknowledged that there's a commitment to not have the same issue in the future. Now, what happened before was a really not ideal dynamic. I've had cases where my boss and colleagues would really vent to me about the other party or the other colleague or the other boss. And I'm not going to pretend to be some sort of saying I've engaged in those as well. Many people would understand, you guys as viewers as well, about being in that situation where you're getting crap talked, but also that we also love crap talking other people. Now, what would happen is that oftentimes my boss would come to me and start critiquing on this same colleague's behavior, critiquing him on his character, like fundamentally. That isn't an ideal situation for everybody. I'm sure everyone would hate the idea of getting crap talked behind their back, even though most of us probably get crap talked behind our back. I would hear critique of me, but infrequently, very infrequently, it would be on my character conduct or me lying about something or how I would respond to someone's critique. So it was a completely different outcome. My coworker would get like residual resentment from the boss after that kind of exchange, and it would carry on for quite some time. Like there could be something else that happens and my boss would bring up that same thing from way back when. And the same would happen vice versa, which just makes for a absolutely unsustainable but also just really crappy like dynamic that you have with your boss or supervisor. So whether or not your boss is an asshole, being in that kind of permanent confrontational dynamic is just, both of you go home feeling like crap, especially you. You're just in like this constant confrontation with him. He almost feels like he's constantly at your neck. And on top of that, he's your boss, so it just really compounds everything to suck in way more. Confident people that I know who are very charismatic and the people that I actually look up to the most, I very rarely see them defend themselves. When someone is being confrontational with them or accusing them of something or even just being emotional to them, they very frequently just respond with, okay, yeah, that's no problem. They really hold themselves with a lot of composure, and to be honest, I could learn a lot from those folks as well. But they handle criticism with a lot of stoicism. They respect themselves a great deal, to the point where they feel there's no need to defend themselves. Other people's opinions don't carry so much weight in their own hearts. But now I actually want to know about you guys. What are some things that like your bosses or colleagues have criticized you about, and how did you respond? I'm super keen to knowing some of the lessons that you guys have learned or some of the struggles that you guys have. I'd love to make videos on this. Let me know.